Hi and welcome back to my channel. Now if you're somebody that's a little bit time poor and on a bit of a budget but you still want to be serving your family home cooked meals, then this is definitely the video for you. In today's video I'll be making 4 different pasta dishes in just under 20 minutes and the total cost for all the ingredients is under £10. Obviously this will require a little bit of multitasking, but I will be taking you step by step through the whole process. So if you're interested to see how I go about this, just keep watching. So for the base of these 4 pasta meals, you will need 250 grams of butter, as well as 250 grams of all-purpose flour and 2 liters of skimmed milk. This is basically the ingredients needed for the white sauce. I've also grated and weighed out 400 grams of sharp or mature cheddar cheese, most of which I'll be using in the sauce. Then I've weighed out 800 grams of fusilli pasta. Please feel free to use whatever pasta you like, but I will recommend using about 200 grams of dry pasta per meal because I find that's sufficient for my family of 4. Then as you can see here, I have 4 onions, 2 red and 2 white, but feel free to use whatever onions you like. I just think the combination gives the meals a little bit more depth of flavor. And to the onions, I'm adding 6 crushed garlic cloves. Right, so this is where we're going to have to do a little bit of multitasking. As you can see, I've added about a tablespoon of rapeseed oil to the onion and garlic mixture, but please feel free to use whatever oil you have on hand. I've also added a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper, and I'll be putting that over a medium heat and just making sure that I constantly stir just so that it doesn't stick to the bottom. To the pasta pot, I am adding boiling water and just some table salt to flavor the water. I read somewhere that the water for pasta should always be as salty as the Mediterranean, and that's something that I kind of always go by. In the third pot, I am adding the full 250 grams of butter and completely melting it down before starting to add the flour little by little. Once all the flour is added, I will leave it on a medium heat just for a little while just to make sure that the flour is completely cooked before I start adding the milk. Again, the milk I'll be adding little by little just to make sure that it's fully incorporated. I will also be talking you through the spices that I personally add to my white sauce in just a little while. So as you can see, I just made sure that I continually stirred both the onion and the white sauce mixture, because you really don't want that onion and garlic to catch at the bottom because burnt garlic really is bitter. To the white sauce, I will be adding a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, some paprika and mixed herbs. This is of course personal preference, and if you don't like any of these spices, just leave it out. If you don't have Italian herbs, you can use mixed herbs or just plain oregano, or just obviously just leave it out. Once all the milk is incorporated, I will be adding 2/3 of that grated cheese that I showed you earlier. I would say about 250 to 300 grams if I had to estimate. Now this whole process of making sure that the onions are nice and translucent and sweet and the white sauce is completely smooth and perfect for the dishes, as well as cooking the pasta, takes about 10 to 12 minutes. At this point, you are ready to start assembly. In terms of the 4 dishes that we are making, you can obviously just leave it as is, mix the pasta, the white sauce and the onion and garlic mix, and that is a lovely dish all by itself, but we're going to take it one step further. Option 1, I'll just be adding bacon. Option 2, I'll be adding mushroom and ham. Option 3 happens to be a vegetarian option, and I'll be adding sun-dried tomatoes and some fresh basil. And then the last one is a tuna pasta bake, to which I will be adding frozen corn as well as just a tin of tuna. I honestly don't know which one I prefer. They are all absolutely lovely and such comforting meals. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 4 containers and just lay it out. Once that is done, I will be taking the pasta and essentially just eyeballing it, putting about a quarter in each of the 4 containers. I will be doing the same with the garlic and onion mixture, just dividing it equally between the containers. And lastly, of course, that lovely creamy sauce, again just splitting it between the 4 containers. So the first dish that we're going to be assembling is the mushroom and ham one. Now I would recommend using tinned mushrooms here as opposed to fresh. And I am just cutting it up so that it is more sort of in bite-sized pieces. Next up is the smoked ham. I bought this from Aldi for $1.99 for the 400 grams, but I'll only be using about half the pack here. And again, I'm just cutting it into bite-sized pieces so that it can mix nicely throughout the pasta, so that each bite has a little bit of the mushroom and a little bit of ham. Lastly, I'll be topping it with the leftover cheese, and that is the first dish all done and dusted. Up next is the tuna one. So I'm going to drain the can of tuna, add that to the mix, and then add about 100 to 150 grams of frozen corn. Again, just mix it up, followed by that lovely cheese, and that's the next one done. The third one is the bacon one. Now here, because I was on a budget, I used cooking bacon. Obviously, for ease, you can use bacon lardons, and that would be even quicker, but like I said, this is 79p for the whole pack. So what I'm going to do is take my scissors, making sure that I cut off the excess fat, and just using the best bits, I'm going to cut it into bite-sized pieces and mix it through the dish, and lastly top it with the cheese, of course. Last but certainly not least is the Sundried Tomato and Basil option, which just happens to be a vegetarian option as well. As you can see, I am taking about 6 to 7 of the Sundried Tomato halves, and I'm just cutting it into small pieces. I would definitely recommend using scissors instead of a knife. I just find it so much easier. I'm also going to take the basil and cut that as well, and then just mix the tomatoes and the basil throughout the pasta meal, just to make sure that every bite has all that flavor in it. As with all the other meals, just to make it even better, I'm going to top it with the last bit of that sharp cheddar cheese, and that is the 4 meals all done in just under 20 minutes. If you enjoyed this content, I would really appreciate it if you can hit that subscribe button below. It really does help my channel out, and it means the world to me. And with all that said, I'm going to leave you with this little clip from my 3-year-old son, which I believe just says it all.
I like the part there.
Hope to see you in my next one. Bye!